mind, but we kind of last minute got everything worked out here with getting this up on the computer for you guys. All right. Love being out in Kaufman County. Absolutely love being in Senator Bob Hall's district. Woo! I love Bob Hall. All right. Oh, hang on a second. I did something strange with mine. Here we go. All right. Who here thinks that we have a bit of a media crisis in the country? Yes. Thank you very much. I'm going to send this around. If you don't mind giving me your name and email address, we'll send you some more information. What we're doing with the Texan. We won't overdo it with you. Okay, I want to first start out this talk about the media crisis with this quote. And it is from William Fedora from The Rise of the Republic. And it is, the country is controlled by laws, laws are controlled by politicians, politicians are controlled by voters some of the time, voters are controlled by public opinion. Public opinion is controlled by the media and education. So whoever controls media and education controls the country. And I believe this to be very spot on. Right now we're not going to talk about education. That's another topic for another day. But what I am going to talk to you about is the media and who controls it. I think we all know who controls the media, but just to give you a couple of statistics, if you thought the media were severely slanted against Donald Trump in 2016, an early read on network evening news coverage of the 2020 race shows the networks ABC, CBS, and NBC, which, by the way, the bulk of the country gets their news from. So if you watch cable news, remember that the bulk of the country gets their news from those three stations. And they took it, anyway, all three of them took an even more hostile approach this past election. Looking at coverage from March 4th, this is after Joe Biden locked up the Democratic nomination through May 31st. The Media Research Center analysts found that ABC, CBS, and NBC evening newscasts minimized or ignored controversies involving Biden. We know that. And even as they pounded President Trump with the worst press of his presidency. President Trump received 474 minutes of evaluative comments, with 94% of them being negative. So that's this first pie chart here. 94% of the coverage in that allotted time frame was negative. Now, in contrast, the pie chart on the right, it shows that Biden did receive, let me see here, 61% negative coverage, which was surprising to me that he even received that. However, here's the kicker. He only received 75 total minutes of news coverage. It was Trump got 7 times more coverage than Biden did. So it doesn't even matter that 61% was negative. He got very little coverage at all. All right, and then there's this. Dave Leventhal with Business Insider did a deep dive look into reporters and other members of the media's political donations and found that 90% of their political donations went to Democrats, of course. There is no doubt, at least with the national news, the left controls the media. We know this, we see it, we read it. We've been disgusted by it for how many years now? Many, many years. Unfortunately, Texas media is no different. They all claim to be unbiased news outlets, and yet Joe Biden was endorsed by the Houston Chronicle, the San Antonio Express News, the Austin American-Statesman, the El Paso Times, and the Laredo Times. The Statesman endorsement said, "A democracy under siege needs Joe Biden," of course, right? And then, of course, after election night, both the Austin American-Statesman and the Houston Chronicle led with the Biden quote, "time to heal," right on their front pages. What do you think the headlines would have been had Trump won the presidency? I don't think they would have been that gracious. Yeah. How many here are familiar with the Texas Tribune by chance? Some of you are, unfortunately. Okay, so for years there's been only one digital state-level outlet that covers Texas political news, and that has been the Texas Tribune. And while they also present themselves to be unbiased, Their coverage is decidedly left of center, and frankly, in the last 4 to even 8 years, it's gotten even more so, right? Yes. You know, what I notice is, and these are just some of the headlines, just a few headlines that we picked out like this: most members of the Texas legislature are white men, and so are the committee chairs. What we notice, and what I'm sure you notice, I don't know that the average person does, but they take the left's talking points and they mainstream them, right? You know, it's like everybody cares the color of somebody's skin, and, you know, these Republicans, this is, you know, how they operate, everybody's white, yada, yada. The next one, as Texas Republicans center campaigns on city crime, anti-police brutality activists say the Republican Party's messaging is racist. Of course that's what they say. Everything we do is racist, right? Everything is, you know, about identity politics and racism and all the names. And then, let me see, GOP lawmakers heading into the legislative session take aim at voter fraud despite no evidence of widespread problem. Yeah. So these are the kinds of things that, you know, I also want to say, you know, when people who are not that plugged in, you know, they always are hearing about, you know, being racist and bigoted and yada, 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 you know, it's no wonder that we have a hard time maybe perhaps recruiting people right of center, because it, you know, after a while it becomes true, right? You repeat something enough, it becomes true, and that's certainly something that the media does. Yet, if we look at only the Trump-Biden election here in Texas, while the outcome was very close, Trump did win with 52% of the vote, which tells us that we have a state that is still roughly half who is right of center, right? Now, I hope, I don't know, I hope that we have more of Texas that is right of center than 52%. There's certainly a lot of people out there that don't vote in the general election, right? But even if we just look at that, it tells us that we have 52% who are right of center. And again, even though the local papers will say that they are unbiased, we know these media outlets like the Dallas Morning News, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, San Antonio Express News, Houston Chronicle, Austin American Statesman are all decidedly left of center. So all of them are catering to the liberal biases and using liberal narratives, and those of us who are right of center have not had an alternative and have been frustrated with our media sources. This leaves a huge void for at least half of the voting population here in Texas. We are incredibly underserved. And I know I have been looking for and frankly yearning for news that we can trust, and just as importantly, doesn't push a liberal narrative. And that is exactly why my husband and I launched The Texan. And you've got some postcards on your chairs. And look at those. Our URL is thetexan.news. So later when you're going online to take a look at it, remember we're thetexan.news, and that's on those postcards. All right. So what is The Texan? We are an online-only news source. We're not thrown in your driveway every morning, but we do come into your email inbox every morning with the day's news. We provide quality, original political news that is straight reporting, but told from a right-of-center perspective, meaning the type of stories we cover and the language we use and don't use in our reporting. For instance, we don't refer to abortion as reproductive health care, because that's not what abortion is. And I don't know if y'all notice it, but a lot of these media outlets, most of them now, are, you know, calling, they're talking about reproductive health care. That's what they put, that's how they that's how they refer to abortion, as reproductive health care. It's no wonder when people, again, who are not plugged into politics hear, you know, Republicans are against reproductive health care, that these people are like, why are those Republicans against that? That's because I don't even know what, I mean, who's against reproductive health care, right? That's not what we're talking about. What we're against is obviously abortion. The goal of The Texan is to fill the void with all of the Texans who are frustrated with all the narrative pushing media in our state.
We seek to present you with the facts so you can make up your own minds regarding legislation, policy, and candidates. We also embody the Texas spirit in our reporting, and we aim to counter the liberal bias. We honor all the holidays of Texas. We either have graphics or we write articles on all the dates leading up to Texas independence. We talk very much about that. We write articles, factual articles about it, so we honor Texas as well as deliver factual news. We are strictly Texas focused. We report on national, state, and as local as we can get for as small and young as we are, but we're not going to be talking about AOC's latest tweet. We don't care. It is not going to make you a more informed voter at the ballot box, right? So it has to have something to do with Texas, either our legislators or somebody proposing legislation that affects Texas. All right, in addition to publishing multiple articles a day, we have gradually added features such as the Roundup, which is a weekly news podcast that gives you a behind-the-scenes look into the most important stories in Texas by the reporters who cover them. So every Thursday afternoon, our editor and our staff writers get together, do a podcast. It comes out Friday morning, and you can listen to the articles that they've written on over the week, but kind of get a behind-the-scenes look into those. We have Voices of Texas, which is exclusive video interviews with the people who influence politics and policy in Texas. And we have the Back Mic, which is another article, but it only comes out once a week, every Friday morning. It's an insider's look into the Texas legislature and state campaigns when those are happening. It's kind of more of a bullet point type of article on Friday morning. So Brad Johnson, one of our staff writers, gets that out. All right, so we call us our lean, mean, fighting machine. Our office is in Austin, Texas. I'm still in Colleyville, where I live, Tarrant County. But our office for the Texan is in Austin. It's just a quarter of a mile from the Capitol. Many of y'all here are very familiar with the La Quinta right there. We're just about a block down from the La Quinta is where our office is. We have an awesome team, none of whom were hired out of journalism school, and that's a good thing. Our employees at the Texan are right of center, all of us admit it, we tell it, everybody, we are all right of center. However, we don't, we write factual reporting of the news. But I always say that it's our advantage that we are all right of center because we understand the policies and the issues from our concerns, right? So if we talk about border security, we're very concerned about national sovereignty, very concerned about drug trafficking, human trafficking. So when we're reporting on those stories, we're giving you numbers for that. We're talking about what's going on the border. We're not talking about kids in cages only ad nauseum when it's, only Trump who's doing it, not, then it stops once Biden is doing it, right? We are reporting numbers and we're giving you the information on that. So we've got Mackenzie Taylor, who's our editor. We've got Sarah White. She's here with me, Outreach and Operations Manager. We have a marketing manager. We have Brad Johnson, Daniel Friend, Isaiah Mitchell, Hayden Sparks are all staff writers in Austin. And then we have Holly Hansen, who writes Harris County. And then Kim Roberts, who writes for the DFW area. And of course, and then also I will tell you that Hayden Sparks lived in, it was a little bit more east of here. So Hayden sometimes handles articles in the East Texas realm as well. Okay. So, although we are right of center in our perspective, and again, we tell everybody this, we do it just the opposite that media does. They say, we're not biased, and then everything you read is very biased. We say, yeah, we're all right of center, but we report factual news. So even though we say that we are right of center, we are not a source of political opinion. The Texan does not tell you how and what to think. I'll give you my opinion all day long. The Texan does not. We will not endorse in races. We are not an advocacy organization. We exist to present the facts. We report on the stories that are important to you, to your pocketbook and values, and stories that are important to all Texans. And I think, again, like I said, I think because we're right of center, we do a better job with those stories that matter to us. And the reason that I say that too is, we have a lot of advocacy organizations on the right. I very much depend on them. I'm sure everybody here depends on them. We've got, those that are about fiscal responsibility or religious liberty or what else is there? There's other organizations like this that are that advocate for certain issues, right? And that's not who our competition is. We want you to continue to get those emails, continue to be informed by them. But what we want to do is compete with the so-called mainstream media outlets that claim to be unbiased and not, and yet are not. And the reason that we want to do this is because not only do we want to reach libertarians, conservatives, and independents, but we also want self-identified liberals reading us. We want them to understand the issues that are concerning to us from an issues perspective. It's not about, racism. It's not about being a bigot. It's not, although I'm sure many of you who are in Austin, you're seeing it already with the sex change operation, legislation. We're already, of course, the Republicans down there are already being called all sorts of names, rather than talking about the issue itself. All right, I want to show you how a few of our stories are different from the legacy media outlets. So I know that many of y'all here, all of y'all here know that Representative Kyle Biederman filed the Texas secession bill. Our headline was Biederman files bill to allow Texans to vote on secession or Texit. Obviously, we explained why it was filed and what it would do. As most of you here know, there are nuances to all legislation, and it is not something that's just going to immediately, if this bill were to pass, it's not going to be something where Texas is just all of a sudden its own nation. There's much more to it, so we explain that within the article. However, other outlets would, of course, rather marginalize than just report. The Dallas Morning News, for instance, secession talk has always been irresponsible, now it's dangerous. And their copy, secession is like a bad penny. It keeps turning up every few years, promoted by the most angry fringe of the Texas Republican Party. This is the kind of thing. Now, is this the media's job to proclaim these things, or is it their job to report what the legislation does so that you can make up your own mind? It's quite something what the media has become. Particularly, our coverage was different during the coronavirus saga. Here are some of the stories you might not have seen from legacy media outlets. This first one here on the left, Laredo police arrest women offering beauty services in sting operation. So, yeah, exactly. So these ladies who needed to have an income, soon after they were locked down, had women come into their home to get their manicures and pedicures. Somebody snarked on them, but narked, I don't know. Anyway, and the police came to their home to arrest these ladies. This is something that I feel like people need to know what their local level governments were doing during this time. Another one is, the president. Let's see, president of Dallas-Fort Worth Hospital Council tells public not to panic over coronavirus numbers. Of course, none of the other mainstream media outlets were putting that out there because they were too busy frightening you to death, right? With just giving you numbers of people that were dying every day. And then, of course, this headline, Houston Mayor Turner lists 3 businesses on coronavirus compliance wall of shame. So this is the Houston mayor that was shaming businesses, putting them up on his wall because they, were open and wanted to earn a living. I mean, these are the kinds of issues that you need to be informed about so that you can know whether you want to vote for these people again. We had all sorts of articles regarding that. All right, the James Younger story. I'm guessing most of y'all here might know about the James Younger story. If you don't, I'll give you a little bit of background. There was a custody battle between 2 parents who disagreed on the transitioning of one of their twin boys. They divorced. The mother, who is some sort of psychologist, said that one of their sons wanted to be a little girl since the age of 3. At the time of the court case, the son was 6 going on 7, and the father could not stop her from what they call socially transitioning, which just means, which means she was putting him in a dress, sending him to school and church in a dress, calling him by the girl's name of Luna, requesting that the church and the school call him by the girl's name. The father was very concerned because the next steps were possibly, puberty blockers. Thank you, Sarah. Was possibly puberty blockers. Remember, he's 6 going on 7. And he did not have medical decision-making ability to stop her. So they went to court. We were watching this story because it was very upsetting to right-of-center Texans. A lot of people were fighting for the dad. We were watching it. Once it went to court, we had one of our reporters from Austin go to Dallas. This is where the court case was. I don't think I mentioned that. And he was there every day simply reporting on the story. Not advocating, not, just giving them, I think the facts are enough, right? And the good news is, when we were putting it out on Twitter and Facebook, there were a lot of Democrats that were reading these stories, and they said, I'm a Democrat, and this is crazy, right? But you don't hear about these particular cases normally. We were the only media organization in the courtroom except for LifeSite News, which is a national life organization. But it's a little different for them because they're an advocacy organization, right? They can kind of talk more emotionally than we do. I mean, we certainly give the facts, but we don't, again, advocate for any desired outcome. When it came, the judge decided that she wanted the jury to go back and deliberate whether they thought the sons should be with the mother, the father, or both parents. Now, she was still going to give her final verdict, but she wanted to hear what the jury would say. They went back, deliberated, they came back, they said, we want both sons to be with the mother.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that story alone, really, for whatever reason, right-of-center personalities picked it up on Twitter and Facebook. They just started everybody was horrified because they were very concerned of, oh my gosh, what is the judge's verdict going to be now, right? And it just took off. The hashtag Save James Younger started trending. It went crazy. Abbott actually tweeted something, about how horrifying this was. Senator Cruz tweeted something. A lot of House members tweeted, I'm going to set up legislation next session, which is the session we're in right now. It just kind of went crazy. All right, so it was a few days later then when they reconvened and the judge was actually going to render her verdict. Well, when we walked into the courtroom that day, every media organization was there, teaming the courtroom there. And the judge had the bailiff come out before she came out, and he said in front of all the news organizations, LifeSite News and the Texan will not be allowed in the courtroom for the verdict. She blamed us for what happened with social media. I mean, it was, I guess, our fault, but if she had read any of our articles, she could not have had any problem with any of them. It's just stated the facts. But I want you to understand how much we have to fight, right? I mean, we not only have to fight moderate Republicans, the left, the media, we have to fight judges like this that won't allow you in the courtroom, which, by the way, is illegal, but anyway, that's another story. So I will tell you that she, for whatever reason, and I think it was because it blew up, her verdict was, I want both boys to be, I want both parents to have medical decision-making ability, which was the best verdict we could have hoped for. And I guarantee you that's the reason was because it blew up like that. Now, that's not the way verdicts should be rendered. That's not how it should be done, but I'm so thankful that we were there and reporting on the story. There's a lot more to it. The mother's still pushing. We've kind of since then written some more stories, but that's to tell you why these bills are being written, authored down in Austin. So a lot of times what the media will try to make you think is that this isn't an issue. Why are they messing with this? This isn't an issue. It is an issue. They just don't report on it, right? So don't let them convince you of that. All right, and then of course with once they finally reported on it, with this Dallas child custody battle, hinges on 7-year-old's gender identity, draws attention of Abbott and Cruz. What I always notice is it's not really about the issue itself, it's about how Republicans respond to the issue. Let's see, Texas Tribune, top Texas Republicans order investigation into mother who supports child's gender transition. Those mean old Republicans. And then this was really bad, and a lot of them were like this. Forbes, which was one of the most disgusting. Texas is afraid of a 7-year-old transgender girl. This is Forbes. He's a boy. He's a little boy. Obviously, we have almost 2 years worth of fantastic stories like these. And obviously right now with session going, we are pumping them out every day, trying to keep everybody informed of what's going on. But mainly I want to show you how the media perpetuates the left of center talking points and spins the news that is frustrating and downright dishonest at times. Some of the things that you can do for us, is how you can help is, obviously we are on, and we have to be for a while, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are also on Parler and MeWe. MeWe is kind of like a Facebook kind of social media. You can definitely like us on all of those, share our articles on social media so more people know about us. And we are a subscription-based service. And let me just tell you quickly why we are. My husband and I did a lot of research into this. Obviously, we not only want to be successful, but we want to grow and take it to the media, as Sarah always says. We looked into ways that, I don't know if y'all noticed, but media organizations are kind of going under these days, right? And we were kind of trying to figure out why that is. And a couple of reasons that you can either be, how you can fund a media organization is either be a nonprofit, where you have, some big donors, which there's nothing wrong with that, except a lot of times your big donors can kind of tend to tell you how to write stories and which stories to write, and that's not what we wanted. We want to be accountable only to our readers. The other way is through advertisers. I don't know if y'all noticed, but if you read news on the internet, you've constantly got all these pop-ups and videos and all sorts of things that you got to X out before you can even get to the story. We don't have any advertisers either, because really what that happens with that type of media organization is all they are doing is trying to get more advertisers so that they can exist. And so they, all they concentrate on is how many clicks an article can get, and that's where you get these clickbait headlines, they're called. Y'all probably all been a part of that, where you see a headline and it's like, man, that can't be, and when you click on it, it isn't. Because all they really want you to do is click. That doesn't serve you well, right? So my husband and I are funding this operation just like anybody who opens up their own business. We put a lot of our money into this because this is what we believe in. We believe that we must take it to the media. So we're funding this operation, but we are asking for subscribers. So at some point in time, it can not only sustain itself, but grow from there. And later, we can do a month-to-month and cancel at any time, or you can do an annual subscription. And we also have a Patriot box, which, just to explain really quickly, I did these talks early on, and a couple of people came up to me and said, I believe in what you're doing. I actually want to give more, but I don't have a way to do that. And I said, I don't know either, but we're going to figure this out because this is too good to be true. So don't freak out. That's just for somebody. If there's one person in this room tonight that says, you know what, I believe in what you're doing. I'm gonna give it the Patriot level. It doesn't get you anything more than your usual every articles all the time. Anything that we have, you get to open up. But when we come, because we're so honored to be able to go around and talk about the Texan and tell you what we're doing and explain to you why we're doing it, we always kind of do a special something for the groups, and Sarah's here to tell you about that. And then I'm going to take questions, so get your questions ready.
Awesome. Well, my name is Sarah White. Like she said, I'm our Outreach and Operations Manager at the Texan. And man, I literally go to every single club with Connie, minus like 2 a year. And I don't know about you guys, but this fires me up every single time. And I could do this presentation in my sleep, and it's still, when I wake up thinking about this presentation, I'm like, we've got to take it back the media. It's not okay that the media thinks that they can just perpetuate these silly ideas, these crazy headlines, and they get away with it. People allow them to get away with it. Speaking, of course, the legislature is going on right now, and a lot of stuff is happening that the media will they kind of sweep it under the rug. They they don't really need to know that these bills are being discussed and talked about until they get a hearing and they're like, Mayday, Mayday, people hate everybody. And so I just want to read you guys, before we tell you about this offer, these headlines about the James Younger inspired bill, one of the couple of House bills and Senate bills that have been filed to discuss what's going on with, transitioning children and giving, puberty blockers and sex changes for children under 18. So we of course wrote on it way early on because we've been following this story for years now. Our headline, very simple. Inspired by James Younger's story, proposed bill would classify child sex changes as abuse. No ifs, ands, or buts, nothing crazy. We're just telling you, hey, here's what it is. Do what you want with that information. We're not going to tell you it's great. We're not going to tell you it's bad. Here is the Texas Tribune's headline. As Texas legislature considers anti-trans bill, NCAA announces it will not hold events in states that discriminate against trans students. When I read the article, there was one small paragraph that actually told you what the bill does. There's no background, there's no, well, why are they considering this? They discuss nothing. The whole thing is, oh no, your students may not be able to compete in these college games. Now here was a great one. KVUE, which is a local news station in Austin, their headline, Texas bill would designate gender-affirming care for transgender minors as child abuse. They called changing the sex of children, puberty blockers, gender-affirming care. They're not telling you, oh, actually, it's life-altering decision-making for somebody under 18. I find that despicable that media are just allowing them to get away with it. And so I am so thankful for what the Texan is doing, and I hope you guys are with me on that we need this in Texas. We need this in our nation because the media is just taking over the left's talking points and they're just passing it on. All of my friends, most of them that I don't work with in politics, they're all left of center because they read the headline and they move on and think, wow, the world really is terrible. Republicans really hate people, and that's just not true. That's such the opposite of truth. And so I hope you guys see that we need this in Texas. And so when we go around, we are asking people to subscribe. We're asking, every room, hey, 5 to 10 people, make that commitment tonight to say, I am going to be a part of something that is hopefully, that we believe is going to change the face of media here in Texas and hopefully one day our nation, because we need to have that happen in Texas. So if you say, hey Sarah, I'm interested, I'm in, I'm gonna be one of those 5 to 10 people, I wanna subscribe tonight. I have left on all of these chairs a little paper where you can fill it out and bring it up to me right here. Fill it out, give it all the information, and you are good to go. If you don't have one on your seat, I will be right here and I would love to give you one. I have lots of pins with our logo that you can take home at the end of filling this paper out. So you can just do the $9 month to month, check us out. Maybe you're like, hey, if this is too good to be true, there's no way this is real. Just subscribe for a month. I'll give you one free month and move on. Now let's say, hey, I'm in, I'm committed, I want this. I want to go a year in. So instead of just paying the $90 and getting nothing, because like Connie said, you guys are the patriots. You're the ones that are involved in this county. You're the ones that need to be involved. And we're thankful that you guys are here and in. So we want to give you your first month free, $9 off. So it's $81 instead of $90. We want to give you this awesome, you can probably see it way better up there, this fake news stops here mug. So instead of, whatever you're drinking, your morning coffee, When you're drinking it in this, you're reading your text and email in the morning, you know you are not getting any fake news in what you are reading. So we hope you guys will believe in the Texans just as we do, and we hope you'll join by subscribing. I will be right here if you have any questions, if you're ready to subscribe.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is it digital only?
It is digital only.
No print.
Yeah, no print. Well, you know, it's just, I don't know if you noticed, but so many of the papers, and maybe you have a local paper that still is print, but it's just, you know, with news the way it is these days, it's just too fast. By the time something gets printed and put on your doorstep, it's old news, you know?
So it comes as email.
Correct. Oh, and we have a website. I mean, obviously we have a website. Let me see here. Let me go in here and let me just show you what it looks like. So you can actually pull up our website and see all our stories, or you can get, get them in your email inbox every morning, or you can just get them on Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing. So once you subscribe, if you don't subscribe, you can get one free article per month. Everybody can. And you can do that for the rest of your life. But if you subscribe, you can open up all the articles all the time in any form or fashion that they get to you. Yeah. So you don't have a print paper in here.
But there's not an app either?
No, but we are going to get an app. That's our next thing we want to work on. We also are going to want to do the audio, so where you can listen to the article instead of read it. So those are our next projects. We're just doing more and more. I'm telling y'all, there's lots of things. Y'all are probably very focused on the constitutional carry bill. We reported quickly on that when it passed out of the House. We reported when Lieutenant Governor said he didn't have the Senate votes for it. We are paying attention to what's happened today. I don't know if y'all know, but Senator Schwertner has filed a constitutional bill well past the date, the filing date, the end of filing, and it's gone to an admin committee, which is a strange committee for that. We're watching these things so that we can report it to you all. Anyway, we also report on, Medicaid expansion. I don't know if y'all know, but nine Republican House members signed on to a Democrat's bill that expands Medicaid in Texas, which is basically Obamacare. That's what Obamacare is the expansion of Medicaid. We had 9 Republican House members who signed on to this. This is way bad. This is way bad. So it's not only right of center issues that we report on. Obviously that's something that's important to us, but it's very important to the left. They want to expand Medicaid. They want to expand the society that, is getting more and more from us rather than, buying their own insurance. So we're reporting on lots of different things, but I bring up constitutional carry because that's a hot button issue right now. There's some shenanigans going on down there. We're paying attention. What other questions do we have? Yes, sir.
Connie, you talked about your censorship at the Younger Case. Have you run into any other situations, for example, maybe Facebook or Twitter, as far as censorship?
So one of the things that I used to bring up when I was giving these, and sometimes I forget about it, one of the things that is beautiful by the business model that we have is that they really can't get to us. I'll mention what you're talking about in just a second, but first I want to say this. Right when we launched, the day we launched, because I was a former senator, because I was a former conservative senator, some people knew me, right? And so we launched, and right away, the trolls came out on social media, and they were, said, it's awful, it's just terrible, it's a right-wing, blah, 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 all the names, all the terms, right? They didn't read an article of ours, trust me, right? We had lots of articles up already. So immediately, all these trolls with no names, just people were saying, who are the donors? Who are their donors? Because they wanted to go after the donors, right? We've seen this. Who he just passed away, the radio guy? Rush, right? Many of them have, but Rush dealt with that for years, right? Them going after his sponsors, for instance. So they were going, and it was so fun because we were saying, we don't have donors, we have subscribers. And then they were like, well, who are their advertisers? Who are their advertisers? Because then they wanted to go after the advertisers to take us down. And we have no advertisers. So, we just have subscribers, which, by the way, we're privately held. Your information is privately held. Nobody ever gets that, right? So because of that model, it was this beautiful thing. They could not get after us. Now, months later, or a year later, dealing with this social media stuff, I got very, very worried about that because obviously, that's how we get a lot of our information out. But the beauty again is, even, with our subscribers that we have, even if we get taken down, which would be a big hit, right? And we haven't gotten threatened with it yet, but I'm very concerned about it. They still can't get to us because our articles go straight into your inbox every day, right? So you're still gonna get our news, even if we do get taken down on social media. And so that's kind of why we're just working very hard to build up our subscriber base, which has been wonderful, so that, any way they try to get at us, they can't completely take us down. So, but we're worried about it. I will tell you that. We're watching, and it's ridiculous, isn't it, that you have to kind of be careful now? Not that the Texan ever has to even wonder about their copy that they put on social media, because again, it's just straight, they just tell it like it is. You should see some of the social copy that Texas Tribune puts out. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, the rhetoric that they push on social media. Anyway, so thank you for that question. What other questions do we have? Listen, I appreciate all of y'all being here. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I don't know if y'all know that, I lost my seat because of the Beto effect. Tarrant County really felt it in 2018. He brought in a lot of voters that came in and voted straight ticket, and we lost a lot of good people, as did all over the state. And so, when that happened, my husband and I decided, listen, we've got to continue to fight, right? And so that's why we started the Texan, because we've got to take the fight wherever it is. So, everybody doing their part. We're going to get Texas back. It may take a while, but we need to do that. We need to make Texas, get it back, make it strong, and make sure that, Texas is viable for the long time future. So I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just one statement about the Dominion machines. We don't, of course, the news says we don't have Dominion machines in Texas, but we got plenty of Dominion software. And that Dominion software was used to take down our judges all over the state.
Yeah, you probably know that Harris County lost 59 Republican judges in that same election cycle. And I don't know if y'all know what's going on in Harris County. As mentioned, Holly Hansen is our writer down there. It's unbelievable. I mean, they do have one elected official that is she self-identifies as a socialist. And I will tell you, their county judge, I mean, they're still on like red in their county, in Harris County, for coronavirus, but there's no data that where it shows that they should be in red. I mean, it's unbelievable. And this is in Texas. So, but thank you for that. We are very aware of, some of these things.
Yeah, I think our vote, on your graph, or your pie graph a while ago, I think our vote was much greater than that. The Dominion software really did affect us all across the state. We lost a lot of votes in it because there's fraud in Texas.
And I don't know, we're obviously writing on that legislation. It doesn't seem like that's really been something recently. It must not be. Are you seeing movement on election integrity? It seems like there hasn't been something of late on that.
There was just something.
What was there something
Was it? Yeah.
just recently?
I think so.
It's all, you know how it is. It's everything's happening so fast, and that's kind of why that you can always do a search for it too. I'm sorry.
It just moved to the Senate.
Oh, did it? Okay. Excellent. I'm sure we'll talk about that then. Or we'll have an article about that. Who authored that one?
HB6 passed the House. Briscoe King authored it.
Oh, that's right. Of course. Yes. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah, that's right. Good. Of course, y'all know the devil's in the details, right? Sometimes things are called things and they're not necessarily that, so you gotta be very careful and read that legislation. All right, everything, all right, thank y'all very much, appreciate it, thank you, sir, appreciate it.